They 100% are full of it. They don't want to hear your view if you think differently than they do. And they are fine telling lies on that stage and that set. And because they know that if someone calls them on it, then they're just going to talk over them and have the audience clap and go to break.
Sage Steele recently went on Bill Maher's podcast, and not only did Sage Steele destroy Bill Maher and all of his woke talking points, but she also went in on Whoopi Goldberg and The View and exposed them to their audience. And people like Bill Maher, you know, obviously Bill Maher is trying to sit there and somewhat defend The View, somewhat defend Whoopi Goldberg, but Sage Steele really goes in on Whoopi Goldberg and The View for lying, straight up lying to their audience, being extremely dishonest and hypocritical, as their show is called The View, and they claim that they like to hear other points of view, bring on these fake conservative, you know, token conservative women on the show, just so that they can say that they like all these different viewpoints. But Sage Steele, who has been on The View multiple times, exposes the fact that Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Barbara Walters, all these weirdos, they don't care about your opinion. They don't want to hear your opinion. They don't want to hear anything that isn't their own. And that's why Sage Steele isn't invited back on The View ever. Let's check out this clip here from Bill Maher and Sage Steele exposing Whoopi Goldberg and The View.
Whoopi was very nice to me. Jenny McCarthy, this is Whoopi, Jenny McCarthy, Sherry Shepherd, and Barbara Walters. And they were great to me. Barbara, whatever. The other three were great. And what I know for a fact, I did it 4 times, and then they had me audition when they were making changes again. They 100% are full of it. They don't want to hear your view if you think differently than they do. And they are fine telling lies on that stage and that set. And because they know that if someone calls them on it, then they're just going to talk over them and have the audience clap and go to break. So the show to me is despicable, and it makes me sad because the potential for 20-some years, I respect the length that they've done it, but the potential is incredible, and they've ruined it.
Is it? What about The View? Like, I feel like statements like that is kind of her trying to seem more reasonable so that her points hit home harder. But let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm just completely jaded on the subject. But number one, I wanted to point out I didn't. Bill Maher is getting visibly upset at the fact that Sage Steele is going in on The View and Whoopi Goldberg as much as she is. Number two, what kind of potential does The View have, or did The View have? Like, they've been going for 20 years or whatever, but what kind of potential did it really have? All it is old women complaining about the world, talking about subjects that they have no idea what they're talking about, bringing on these fake quote-unquote experts just to continue peddling the same exact talking points that The View, Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar all peddle already, but just coming from a quote-unquote expert makes it seem a little bit more credible. Like, what potential did The View have? I don't see a potential there at all. It's all uninformed old women washed up in their careers, complaining about the world. Get off my lawn type women.
But I think you could handle it.
You know what, though? It's exhausting. Like, do we want to walk into that every day? And I think that, to me, I'm trying.
Yes, because it's like.
They don't want me, though. They won't even
I'm telling you,
no,
but
Bill, I worked for ABC. I worked for them for 16 years. They didn't want my view. I was under the same umbrella of Disney. They easily could have called me, especially the last several years,
right.
when these conversations have to take place.
You're so right.
They won't call me. Why?
Right.
Because they know. They know that I'm not afraid. No. They don't want that.
I mean.
So no, thank you.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
I've had the most amazing run with HBO, and I love them dearly for it.
Yeah.
You know, the show wasn't that good the first year. They stuck with it, things like that. And, you know, I'm not somebody who's ever going to win them an Emmy. I mean, that's just, and we've made our peace with that. But I always, you know, live under the sword of Damocles also. I feel like when you say the things that we're saying, which are ironically.
Also, off topic, is Sage Steele just giant? Or is Bill Maher tiny? Or is this a camera trick? Or what's going on? Because look how much taller Sage Steele looks than Bill Maher. She just looks like an absolute giant next to him. I don't know. Off topic.
Not really always conservative. I mean, maybe you are a little more than I am. But just sort of like commonsensical. And how can you argue with that shit? They don't want to hear it.
They don't.
And
well, because if you're commonsensical, like I could bring up a couple of names like Joe Rogan or Russell Brand or someone like that who's not a conservative, who've actually been liberals their whole life, and I'm sure Sage Steele also is probably leaning more liberal her entire life, and then coming through the space and seeing all these opinions from people like Whoopi Goldberg and The View and these weirdos, these wackos, probably even people like Bill Maher, it turned her into someone who was more of a centrist or maybe even right-leaning because the Overton window has shifted so far that, Sage Steele could just be sitting in the same spot and all of a sudden become right-wing. They think that Joe Rogan and people with common sense that exercise their ability to see and perceive common sense, they think they are like alt-righters. They think they're neo-Nazis. They call them all these crazy names, misinformation. Like, imagine saying that someone else, because that they would say that about Sage Steele, that she spreads misinformation. They say it about Joe Rogan. They say it about Russell Brand. They say it about everyone who is classically a liberal, but is exercising their ability to perceive common sense. That they would say that Sage Steele is spreading misinformation when The View is the king. They're the queens of misinformation. All they do is spread misinformation because they're not informed on anything.
Always, I never decorate my office because I always think, I've been fired once by a network. I always think tomorrow could be the last day. As long as I am going to do what I do. Now, so far it's working, but yes, it could just, but you got to get back on because this is exactly what the country needs. It's like somebody who you can't say they're a hick or they're dumb or they're, it's like, come on, man. Can you just listen to everybody? Maybe they have a point.
I don't think, and number one, thank you, because
anyway,
that means a lot from you.
You'll do real time, please.
Will
you? You'd be great on a real-time panel.
Really?
Of course.
You'll have me.
Yes, you're doing me a favor. I'm always looking. It's hard to find good panelists for real-time. It wasn't for my old show, the Politically Incorrect show, because the whole point of it was let's mix the idiots with people who know things, and it'll be funny.
But it worked.
You gotta respect Bill Maher too. I think the guy's an absolute idiot, and his takes on politics and Donald Trump, he's brainwashed completely by the woke cult. You got to give it to him, though. He does bring on a lot of people that have differing viewpoints than him. Like Sage Steele, completely different viewpoints than a lot of things that Bill Maher talks about. The fact that Sage Steele goes after The View, that's something Bill Maher would never do. He might call out every once in a while when they say some stupid stuff, but he won't go after the character of The View and say that they don't want people who challenge their beliefs whenever that's what they claim that they love to have. And, this is one of the rare moments that I actually covered before where Sunny Hostin is challenged straight to her face. And what did they do? Exactly what Sage Steele said that The View always does. They called the man a charlatan directly to his face. They talked over him. They wouldn't let him explain his points without bombarding him with questions, having applause come in, having the applause light come on, the audience applaud, and they go to break. That's exactly what Sage Steele said, that Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, they act all nice and they want to hear your opinions behind the scenes. And they get on the show, they talk over you whenever you disagree. The applause light comes on, and then they all just go to commercial break. Let's check out this clip here when Sunny Hostin called their guest a charlatan directly to his face simply because he disagreed and laid out his viewpoints very, very clearly and succinctly to them in the audience. He started winning everyone over, and they said, no, we can't have this. Let's talk over him and have the applause like him on.
Done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years, must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the Black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No,
you did. You actually said that in a podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
Yes, you did. So, but my question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
Okay, let's give it. Let him answer. Yes.
You see how they all just start bombarding him. There's one, the little fake conservative girl, I always forget her name, Alyssa Griffin or something like that. the fake conservative girl is trying to say he's not a Republican. He's not a Republican. Everybody else is like, I don't care. We're going to keep bombarding this guy with questions, and whenever the time comes for him to respond, we're all just going to talk over him at the same time. Then the the audience goes to applause. They go to commercial break, and we never actually get to hear the guy. I mean, in this case, Coleman does respond in a pretty good way, but most of the time we would just go to commercial break and we would never hear the actual response. Like that happened with Dr. Phil. That happens with so many guests that's brought on The View, and it's exactly what Sage Steele was telling Bill Maher happens on The View. They don't care about your opinions. You know, they claim that they do. They claim that they want to bring on these experts and have their opinions, their beliefs challenged. They don't. That's the opposite of what they want to do. And that's why they, shun people and blacklist people like Sage Steele from their show. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about what Sage Steele had to tell Bill Maher about The View. I think Sage Steele really exposed The View and exposed things that we basically already knew, but it's good to see somebody from the inside come out and say these things about Whoopi Goldberg and The View. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.